Welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. Barb and I are really excited that you guys can join us on the podcast today. And we're excited we have Dennis Henson back with us. We're going to do a 12-part series on his book, The Real Impact. And so we're going to break it down and for each of the series, we're going to talk about one of the stories that are out of his book. So we'll let you have a listen to the story and then we'll go on to discuss it. So, welcome back, Dennis. We're really excited to have you on with us.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you and Barb having me.
Yes. So, we will listen to The Legend of Rudy, and then once it's over, we can discuss it. And we look forward to sharing this with everybody because these are amazing stories and very inspirational. So, okay, here we go, everyone.
Okay.
The Legend of Rudy. It wasn't the top-rated movie in 1993. It came in 69th. It wasn't even the highest-ranked college football film that year. Yet Rudy became a film classic that has motivated thousands with its touching story of a boy's struggle to make his dream a reality. Daniel Rudiger was born in Joliet, Illinois in 1948, the third of 14 children. Rudy, as he was called, lived in a small home outside Chicago. His father was a miner who barely earned enough to feed his large family. Still, as bad as things were, he loved to watch Notre Dame football on Saturdays in the fall. Rudy also loved Notre Dame and dreamed of someday playing for the Fighting Irish. So the first day he was eligible, he signed up for Joliet Catholic Academy's varsity football team. Rudy practiced hard, earned a starting position, and led the team in tackles in his final 2 seasons. Unfortunately, he wasn't built like a football player. He was only 5'6" and weighed just 165 pounds. But Rudiger strove to compensate for his slight build by giving every play 100% of what he had. He didn't just play hard, he also talked tough. And it was no secret that he planned to become a member of Notre Dame's Fighting Irish. Of course, when his classmates heard that, they got a good laugh. Rudy, you're nuts. It's impossible. And almost everyone at Joliet believed Rudy had no chance of suiting up for the Irish. After all, Notre Dame could recruit the best players from anywhere in the nation. Why, in a million years, would they ever consider anyone like Rudy? That's simply impossible. However, one person didn't laugh at Rudy and even encouraged him to go for his dream. That was his father's best friend, Pete. Pete listened to Rudy and offered him advice. But one day, Pete was killed in an accident at his job. Young Rudiger, though grief-stricken, vowed to take Pete's recommendations and pursue his dream. So after graduating high school, he moved to South Bend, Indiana, where he hoped to become a student at his beloved college. Unfortunately, he didn't qualify to enroll. Noticing his disappointment, a helpful priest suggested he apply to Holy Cross Junior College as a stepping stone to entering Notre Dame. The bar at Holy Cross was lower, and Rudy was accepted. Although Rudy was dedicated and worked hard to earn high marks, he had dyslexia, which made reading and studying slow and challenging. His disability made achieving good grades arduous. Rudy turned in applications each of the subsequent 5 semesters just to be rejected again and again. Yet his desire to play for the Irish was stronger than ever. So he spent as much time walking the university's grounds as he could. On one campus visit, Rudy spotted a flyer touting a groundskeeper position and jumped at the chance. While working on campus, he had access to and explored the tunnels of historic Notre Dame Stadium. From the front of the Hesburgh Library, he admired the 68-foot mural of the Word of Life, also known as Touchdown Jesus. But when the midday sun reflected from the golden dome of Notre Dame's main building, he closed his eyes and saw himself donning the golden helmet of the Irish. If Rudy had been motivated before, he was now on fire. So he renewed his vow that somehow, some way, he was going to dress in the blue and gold and take the field with the Fighting Irish. Although he doubled down on his studies, he knew his time was running out, and he realized his dream would be dead if he was rejected once more. You see, Notre Dame didn't accept senior transfers, so Rudy played and submitted his application for the final time. When the verdict was announced, it was good news. Rudy's dream was still alive, but being accepted as a football player would be a much higher hurdle. Most college teams allow walk-ons, and Notre Dame was no different. His problem was that only 2 walk-on positions were available, and Rudy would compete against 15 top-quality players. Nevertheless, Rudiger approached the tryouts as if his life depended on it. When the whistle blew, you wouldn't have wanted to be standing in front of him. He poured every ounce of courage and fight he had into those tryouts. And to everyone's amazement, Rudy Rudiger was selected as one of the chosen 2. Overjoyed, he knew he had come a long way, but his real dream was to suit up in the blue and gold and play in a real game. And though making the team was a giant step, the next step would require the heart of a champion. Scout teams consisted of players who, at practice, played against the first string. They were the guys who took all the blows and got little, if any, glory. But that didn't bother Rudy. He was determined to do his part to help the Fighting Irish win regardless of his position. So day after day, the pint-sized defender battled those enormous 5-star players. His effort displayed the meaning of heart, passion, and devotion. Rudy played bruised, he played hurt, and he put all he had into every play. Even facing pushback from some of his teammates, he never gave an inch. Fortunately, his efforts didn't go unnoticed by the elite players he faced every day. They came to love and respect him for his selfless actions. As his final season of eligibility approached, some of the team's leaders encouraged him to tell Coach Parsegian about his dream, so Rudiger gathered his nerve and knocked on the coach's door. Aaron Parsegian realized how hard Rudy had worked and promised to play him in at least one game next season. Rudy was thrilled and believed his dream was about to become a reality. He could see himself donning a gold helmet and running onto the field of the most historic stadium in college football. He couldn't wait for his family and the many doubters to see it. However, Parsegian stepped down as coach at the end of the season and was replaced by Dan Devine. Devine wasn't aware of Era's promise or Rudy's hard work, and he was much too busy to discuss anything with a player on the scout team. So when fall brought about a new season, Rudy continued to do his very best at every practice. Once again, he slammed those big guys with all his might and strove to keep everyone's enthusiasm high on the practice field. As the games came and went, the Irish were having a good year. Boston College was a win, Purdue a win, and Northwestern also a win. However, the next game was a loss at Michigan State, and with that, Coach Devine became even more focused on righting the ship and certainly had no time for an individual player's dream. Wins against North Carolina and Air Force followed. But with a loss to Southern California, Rudy could feel his hopes evaporating. The Irish did come back to defeat the Navy, but Georgia Tech was the last game on their schedule, and everyone knew that the Yellow Jackets would not be pushovers. Rudy's teammates were aware of Coach Parsegian's promise, yet none of them dared try to influence Coach Devine, especially this year, so no one said a word. In the Georgia Tech game, Notre Dame built a healthy lead, and as the game's conclusion approached, the Irish could have won by simply running out the clock. But Rudy's teammates knew there would probably never be another chance for him to play if the game ended. So the team leader persuaded the quarterback to try to score rather than running out the clock. If Notre Dame could score, the defense would have to re-enter the field, giving Rudy one more chance to play. Their plan worked, and they scored. Coach Devine was dumbfounded. He couldn't believe his eyes. What in the heck is going on here? At that point, some Irish players started chanting, "Rudy, Rudy," and soon others joined in. As the chant began to get louder, "Rudy, Rudy," the cheerleaders and some of the home crowd picked up the mantra. Then his family and friends joined in, and even some coaches followed suit. The sound of "Rudy, Rudy, Rudy" rang out in Notre Dame Stadium. Then finally, Coach Devine caught on and with a scowl, motioned for the defensive coach to send in Rudiger. Well, it may seem like no big deal, Rudy's lifelong dream was realized. And for the next 2 plays, Rudiger donned his golden helmet and proudly wore the blue and gold for his Fighting Irish. On his first play, he was stopped and couldn't reach the runner. But on the second, he broke through an elite Yellow Jacket line manned by 300-pound players. Then little Rudy Rudiger tackled Georgia Tech's quarterback for a loss on the game's final play. A mighty roar rose from the fans as the Irish band played their famous Notre Dame fight song, the Victory March. There were smiles and high fives from Rudy's family. Once the final seconds ticked off the clock, Rudy's teammates lifted him on their shoulders and carried him off the field. This was the only time in Notre Dame's history a player was carried off by his teammates. So the legend of Rudy began and lives on. Even today, although Rudiger played only 2 plays, he not only realized his dream, but also accomplished the impossible and provided encouragement to nameless thousands. Focus on your dream and never quit. It is always too soon to quit. Rudy Rudiger.
That was awesome. So, what do you think are the biggest takeaways from that story then?
I believe that once people know what they really want, if they can really focus on something out there in the future that they are so excited about that they will do anything. They have a burning desire to get there, and there's no obstacle too big to stop them, that they're 98% there. Once they have that desire, once they know what they want, every morning, that's the first thing they think of when they get out of bed, and they do whatever's necessary throughout every single day to move closer to their goal. That's what the story's about, and that's what all the stories are about. And the first of my 7 secrets of success is you have to get your mind right. If you're just getting up every day and going to work and coming home, having dinner, watching TV, and going to bed and not thinking about changing the future, well, that's going to be your future. I mean, and if you're happy with that, that's fine. But God gives you desires. You think, oh man, it would have been great to be a veterinarian. I love animals, and wouldn't it be wonderful to come in every day um, and heal them and help them? And then you let your butts get in the way. Well, I would love to be a veterinarian, but I don't have the money. I couldn't pass the class. You have to go through intensive training. It's harder than college. All of these buts come in. People need to move their butts and replace them with ands. I would love to be a veterinarian, and I'm visiting a new veterinarian every week to ask them how they can help me go in that direction. And I'm reading something every day about veterinary medicine, and all those positive ands will add up to eventually reaching that goal. You're never going to get there unless you start moving in that direction. So that's the takeaway from that story to me. I think it's such an inspiring story. I've probably, writing the book and doing the research, I've probably heard the story at least 1,000, maybe more than 1,000 times. And here, I don't know if you can see, but I keep wiping my eyes because the tears running down my face. But that's just how life is. Just think how he felt, how wonderful once he reached that goal that he felt. And he's changed a lot of people's lives because he did that. People read the story and watch the movie and they get inspired and they go out and do something great. So anybody can do that. They just have to do it.
Yes, that's exactly right. What about you, Mom? Was there a part that stood out to you in the story that you found inspirational or motivational?
Yeah, it was interesting because I felt sorry for him in the beginning. It was like he had that dream, he wanted it so badly, right? And and he just kept persevering and going towards it. And it just shows that if you do go after your dream, it works in the end. But you sometimes have to struggle to get there. But that's okay because the end result pays off everything that you have to go through in order to get where you want to be in the end. So good story. Good motivational story.
It really was. And I love too how, and I truly believe this, that the right people show up in your life as they're meant to. So, like with his dad's friend Pete, and then like his team supporting him. And I think that's important too, right? When we surround ourselves by the people that are encouraging us and can envision our dreams with us, that's so helpful. And I agree with what you said as well, is, I heard a saying one time, and it's like, if you want to know what your future will look like, look what your present is. Like, what were you thinking in the past? Because that's your present. What do you want in the future? It's what you're thinking about right now. So, like you said, change your butts to ands and move your butts.
Right. Einstein said your imagination is a preview of coming attractions. And that's true. So you should spend some time imagining what you want to become, what you want to do, who you want to be, what you want to have. And that moves you in that direction. Just thinking about it. Because everything that we see that's made, the screen that I'm looking at right now, the book I'm holding in my hand, the phone, your cell phone, your computer board, your keyboard, all of that was just someone's thought at one time. Someone thought, we need to do a cell phone. That was Steve Jobs, and it became a reality. But everything you see, the house that you live in, the buildings you go by, the roads you drive on, all of those were just thoughts at one time. So your thoughts are very powerful. They're powerful things. But you have to make them happen. You have to use those thoughts and move in those directions. So you could sit here for an hour and think, well, I wish that door was open, but the door's not going to open until you get up and walk over there and open it, unless you have someone that works for you and you say, go open that door, but you still had to get it done in one way or another.
Yeah, that's correct. And, and I think, these stories in your book are so inspirational. So we really look forward to sharing these with people. And, can you tell everybody and show them your book and tell them where they can find your book?
Okay. The book's name is Real Impact Daily Inspiration. It has a lamp on the front. You can find it on Amazon. And you can go to realimpactbook.com. And if you scroll down to the bottom where it says podcast attendee, you can click on that and get a free download of the entire book with no strings attached. I found that if I give these books away, people will read the book and they'll think, oh, wow, what a great gift this would be for my nephew who's graduating, or from my niece who's a college graduate, or, oh, I could give this to my aunt who's in a nursing home and they can read it, share the stories with the other people. So it makes a great gift. And I didn't write the book to make $1 million. Kim, I wrote the book to help 1 million people. And the best way to help people is just to get the book out there. So I'm freely giving it away. You have to put your name and email address, but you don't get put on an email list unless you click the tab that says, notify me when you have other books. I just finished a book called The Laws of Nature for Success. And it includes the 7 secrets of success. And I'm sending it to the formatter next week. I'm polishing it up right now. So that might be something that you want to consider in the future. It takes you through all of the steps that Rudy went through and all the other people. And those 7 steps are, you mentioned, get your mind right, seek wisdom, develop skills, make detailed plans, take massive action. And you mentioned this one, form great alliances. You noticed it during the movie. And then the last one is being persistent. And as you could see, Rudy could have quit at any time because he really didn't have a chance. He was too little. He didn't have the money. He got rejected 4 times at Notre Dame. And then when he got there, the chances of him even getting on the scout team were very, very small. But he didn't. He didn't quit. He kept going. He kept butting his head against, like the ram butting his head against the dam. There used to be a song about that when I was a kid. So learn the 7 secrets, develop each one of them. The first one's getting your mind right, and never give up. And you'll eventually, well, at least you'll have a better chance. If you don't try, you don't have any chance at all. And when you have a desire, that's a gift from God. Don't push it away. Say, no, I would love to do that, but there's just too many things. Don't do that. Move in the direction of your desire. Think of it like this. Who tells ants what to do? Who tells bees what to do? Well, it's nature. There's no bee school. There's no ant school. They just instinctively know this is exactly what I'm supposed to do to get the things done. Well, people get those same urges. They're called desires. They have the free will. They have the will to say, well, yeah, but I'm not going to do that because I'd rather lay on the couch and watch TV, or I can't do that because of all this negative stuff. Well, the truth is you can do an awful lot more than you think you can, and by reading about other people who've accomplished things, it makes it easier for you. The lamp on the front of this book, if you go to realimpactbook.com, the very first tab says the mystery of the lamp. And it is kind of a mystery. It's kind of a magic lamp. It has a magic formula, and magic formulas in the book. You have to get the book, but I'm giving you the book. So do the magic formula and you can have anything you want. You get your 3 wishes. But here's the trick. You have to decide what you want. That's the trick. If you can get people to decide what they want, then they can go out and change the world. But if you go through your life and never determine, well, this is what makes me feel good. I think we'll probably be doing the story of Lincoln in the future. I'm not sure if you picked that one, but when Abraham Lincoln was a young man, he was very poor and he had less than a first grade education. And he didn't know what he wanted. He described himself as a floating piece of driftwood. He didn't know what he wanted. He just kind of did whatever came along. Then he came into possession. He loved to read, but he came into possession of some old English law books. And he read those and it really got him excited. He really liked that. So he started attending trials. He would go to the courthouse and sit in on the trials that would let him sit in on. And when he got in the courtroom, he looked around and he thought, this feels like home. I really love this. And I'd love to see the people arguing the cases. He said, I'm going to become an attorney. Now, he didn't have any money. He was a total failure. He could barely speak the English language. He had less than a first grade education and very few contacts. And here he is, I'm going to be an attorney. Well, what were the chances of that? Pretty low, but he did it. He passed the bar. He went to law school and he became probably the second most prominent attorney in the state of Illinois. And his business partner was the first. And then he went on to become the president. So, your limitations are in your head. You've got to forget about those and go after whatever it is you want. And even if you don't get there, the journey is so much fun moving in the direction that you want. If you wanted to become an attorney or a veterinarian or an engineer, learning is fun if that's what you're meant to be. And you no longer have to work. if you're doing something that moves you in the direction of what you were supposed to be, work is non-existent anymore. You don't ever have to work again because all the things you're doing that get you where you want to go is fine. It's just fine. It's not work at all.
Yeah, that's
No,
exactly. Yeah, I truly believe that, we make time for what's important to us. And so there's always time if that's your dream, whatever it is, there's always time. You always have time because you will make time if it's important enough for you. And I just think, these are such great stories because they're so inspiring for people. And, the other thing is like I'm really famous for saying this is like, what harm is there in trying or doing it or asking someone for help? Because the answer was no before you started. So what's the worst that can happen? It just remains at no and you move in a different direction or ask somebody else. So there's always something to chase. And I think that's important messages for people to know is like you said, decide what you want and go for it.
right. And
Don't
if
let
you try and you fail, then just, well, I failed, but what did I learn from what I failed? And then get back up and dust your pants off and go again. And there again, these stories in the book, most of these people were miserable failures. I mean, they just failed over and over and over again and got knocked down, but they continued to just get up and go. They just wouldn't be stopped. And now their names are famous throughout the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Super successes.
Well, we look forward to breaking these down and having these conversations and inspiring people. And, thanks for giving the books away for free because that's such a gracious gift. And I think, it's something that people can be inspired for. And I love that you can zoom around your book in different orders and you don't have to read it from front to back. And so that's really great. So, can you tell everybody where they can find you?
Go to realimpactbook.com and up the very top, right in the center, it says contact us. And it has my email address and phone number. I'm very easy to get in touch with. And I'm available for speaking engagements or, if you radio programs. I know I've been on several radio programs and I've gotten really good reviews from those. And if someone's listening that has another podcast that's similar, I'd be available for that too. But I really enjoy this one with Kim and Barb because we're on the same wavelength. So this one's a lot of fun.
Well, thank you. We look forward to it. Like I said, everybody make sure you're tuning in because we've got the 12. This is one of the 12, and we look forward to sharing them with us. So thanks so much for being with us today and sharing your wisdom and sharing your inspirational stories. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I look forward to next time.
And everyone else, make sure you tune in the next time.
You bet.